So, okay, today we are here, and the one thing I love about this being an ME demo is that I don't have to pretend to talk about something else. This is solely a plug to show you guys the product and what we've done. So we are here to talk about Minion Enterprise and what we've done and show you guys. We're not going to be able to show you the entire product. The entire product is just too big. But we're going to talk about some of our favorite features, and then we'll highlight some of the other stuff, and then get you guys on your way. So, damn PowerPoint. So you guys know we have Reindex and we have Backup so far. And both of these guys are what we're calling standalone free modules for Minion Enterprise. Now, how can it be standalone and a module, right? Well, because we don't limit the functionality for these guys at all. There's never been a time that we've said, hey, why don't we have this functionality and then stop it right here so that they have to buy Minion Enterprise if they want to do this really cool stuff.
Yeah, we don't say, let's save that for the paid product. Everything that we could do within a standalone module is what we did.
Right. But if you have Minion Enterprise, these guys are much better. So you get extra functionality, but you don't get limited functionality.
Well, it's extra because of the nature of the product, because
Exactly.
It's an enterprise solution.
Exactly. And you'll see what we mean. We're going to talk about those a little bit in here. But you'll see what we mean, how there's just no way that you could do that in a standalone product. So, and of course, CheckDB is going to be coming out hopefully sometime this year. I would really like for it to.
Maybe you can fit that in over Christmas.
And again, if nothing else, because I'm in love with that dark red color, and I just can't wait to see that somewhere.
Nice.
But again, today is all about little golden Minion Enterprise-y guy. So let's talk about the key philosophies of ME. I'll start calling it ME from now on, because too many syllables makes my head hurt. If any of you have ever seen our pre-con on enterprise management, then you're going to recognize a lot of these concepts. But these philosophies, or these tenets that we have here, come directly out of our enterprise management philosophy. I've been personally doing large enterprises for 20 years, both as a regular DBA and a team lead. And I've personally been in shops where I was the only DBA with over 1,000 servers. So these are the principles that I used to be able to do that and go to lunch every day and come home and go home on time every day and just make things happen in very big ways. So the first principle that we have here is consider the entire enterprise. And we're going to get to demos in a couple minutes. But consider the entire enterprise. One thing that we can't stand, and it still flabbergasts me, flibbertigibbets me.
No, flabbergast, you had it.
Is every other product out there on the market still does things a single box at a time, a single instance at a time. And I don't understand it. Even huge enterprise level products still force you to do things a single box at a time. And it really gets me that even database products written by database companies still haven't taken the DBA into consideration and taken his job, his entire job, into consideration. So what we've done here is we've considered the entire enterprise, not just cycling through 1,000 or 2,000 servers at a time to do your job. We want you to be able to do your job against all of your boxes at once. That's why we call ourselves a central management application and not a performance management or a performance monitoring application, right? So you'll see what I mean when we get into the demos. We've got some incredible stuff that we're doing here. And talk about time savers. We've got some stuff in here that'll save you just weeks of time. Okay, so the next one. Automate everything that can be automated. I don't think we have to punch that one, do we?
No, that's good.
Don't drop objects on servers. Now, this is a big one for us because I've implemented so many enterprise level products, and the first thing that you do is you evaluate it, and then you start putting agents out on boxes, and that always takes change controls and change control committees and proof of concepts, and it takes rollback plans, and then it takes monitoring afterwards to make sure that that agent isn't messing anything up. And of course, the first thing that happens when you have a problem on that box is you have to turn the agent off to make sure that it doesn't have a leak or something and it's causing the problem, and on and on and on, right? And all of that stuff happens again when you go to upgrade, right? So, and even the ones that have that allow you to group things, right? You can't have exceptions on those servers very easily. So we don't drop anything out on your server. You install Minion Enterprise in under 10 minutes.
Yeah, all of our current clients have gotten it up really quickly.
Yeah, and then it just works across your entire shop. I mean, it's really amazing how everything just starts doing it. Everything that we're going to show you today takes zero configuration. It has configuration, but it takes zero configuration. You can just put the product in and start working. And when you go to upgrade the product, all you have to do is upgrade the server that the product is on. And then everything, absolutely all 1,000, 5,000 of your boxes automatically pick up those changes because everything is run from the same place. No event storming. I'm going to let you take this one.
Absolutely. We've got a couple different kinds of event storming that we've noticed over the years at almost every single shop we've ever been at. The first one we typically refer to as a blast storm, and that's when you've got an event that happens, and so instead of a normal day of alerts that you want to ignore, you get hundreds upon hundreds of alerts, most of which you can't do anything about or don't apply to you, or yes, I know that already, stop telling me again and again because I'm spending more time deleting things out of my inbox than I am actually working on the problem.
You kind of veered off there. You were defining blast storming.
That is blast storming. That's too many. That's all those emails all at once.
Yeah, sure.
No,
from a single event.
From a single event.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I didn't veer. You stopped paying attention because you were wiping things on your desk.
What?
I'm sorry, what? But that event kind of storming is the first kind, and the second kind is more insidious. I would say it
can be harder to control. For
absolutely,
sure.
It's ever present, and it's that thing that again almost every shop has it, where you get in there, you log on, and in your very first day, you've got 20 alerts in your inbox. What's all these, you say? And they're like, yeah, ignore those. Those don't mean anything, or that doesn't count because it's an old box or the thing. So what do? Instead of deleting, say maybe 50 or 100 alerts a day, you set up Outlook filters, don't you? Because, well, these don't have anything to do with me, and there's nothing I can do about them. So, yeah, that kind of thing teaches you to ignore alerts, which means alerts don't mean anything anymore. It's not an alert anymore. It's just white noise.
Right.
Therefore, you have no alerts in your whole environment.
So
well done.
My worst one ever was I got hired at a shop and started exactly a week later and had over 17,000 emails in my box waiting for me.
Good time.
All of them came from SCOM.
Good times indeed. My worst one was the one where the manager insisted on positive alerts too. So every log backup had
there was a lot of that too.
This is complete.
Right. The guy had set up positive alerts to let him know to send an email after every database was reindexed to let him know that the reindex finished.
Right, because it makes me feel better if I know things are happening.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And they had over 1,000 servers with dozens of databases on it. It was ridiculous, right?
Good time.
So, okay, we will never do that. This is one of our tenets. If you have a NAS go down, and we've had this happen at one of our customers, and you've got 3,500 backups that don't take place that night, you get a single email with all 3,500 databases in it. You do not get 3,500 emails.
Yeah, and that client was so happy with you when they got that one email with the 3,500 alert.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we get it now. Thank you.
Exactly, yeah. They didn't really get that concept before, and then when that happened, they were like, oh, I see.
Tell the truth. Did you take that NAS down?
I know, right? Now, and that really says something, too, about that. That really tells you something, too, right? That when you get that alert, because I tell you how many events there are in the subject, right? And when you see 3,500, you're like, oh, something big has happened. It's probably not all of the SQL boxes decided not to back up at the same time. But the same thing with disk alerts, too, right? So if you have, 1,000 boxes and you've got 40 disks that start running out of space and they trip the alarm, you're going to get a single email for all of those disks instead of getting 40 different alerts. And then you just You just decide which ones are more important and then just start working the list.
Yeah.
And you'll see them fall off the list. When the next alert comes out, you'll see them falling off the list.
But we'll talk more about this in a little bit.
Yeah, I hope so. There we go. Log everything, report on anything. This is not only beautifully worded.
Thank you.
But it definitely belongs in our key tenets. Now, I'm not going to talk about this a lot now. You'll see it in the demo. So I'm just going to let this one rest as well.
Just let it ride.
And work like a DBA. Oh, man. This one, I really can't say if this one overshadows all the other ones because they kind of take place depending on which one I'm talking about at the time.
Really
exactly.
Important.
But what this means is we don't have a GUI. We don't want a GUI. We don't care for GUIs. We won't ever put a GUI on top of this. And the reason why is because when you do, the inherent problem with a GUI is that that's all you have. That's your only option. If it takes me 17 clicks to do something in the GUI, it will always take me 17 clicks. It will always take me as long as it takes me this first time, this second time. I can't automate it. I can't add it to my processes. I can't put it up online for anything. I can't send anybody else there without installing the GUI there.
Oh my gosh, Jeff Rush just gave us a new phrase. I love this. Instead of row by agonizing row, server by agonizing server.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful.
So you're going to see that not only does the GUI just chain you to doing your job every day, right? It chains you to doing it manually every single time, and it chains you to how long it takes you to do it, right? So we don't believe in that, and honestly, we couldn't even write a GUI. Nobody could write a GUI that would be able to give you all of the functionality efficiently that we give you here. It would be hard enough to write one that wouldn't give you the functionality, much less efficiently.
Right, because you can't tell DBAs how to use their data. You can't tell them
exactly.
all the ways in which they need to slice and dice their data.
Exactly. And I have a phrase, and it goes, when I teach my pre-con, and it pretty much goes like this. I can't make you more productive. Minion can't make you more productive, but I can remove your busy work so that you can be more productive. And that's what we're looking for. We are looking to remove your busy work so that then you can turn around and use your data and become more productive with it. You're going to see what we're talking about. As a matter of fact,
you're going to see
it right now. Okay, let's get into the demo. Now, the core tenet, or the cornerstone of this is the servers table and the SLA. So you put all of your servers in a table, and this automatically becomes your database of record. I've been in so many shops where DBAs are, where one DB, you may have a team of like 6 or 10 DBAs, right? And every single one of them has, an Excel with servers in it, and another one has a Word, and sometimes I've even had them have, I keep part of mine in Excel and I keep the other part on the SharePoint and I keep some in Word, and it's like, dude, really? You haven't bothered consolidating your servers? And if somebody builds a server, like puts up a new VM and DBA number 3 puts it in his list, but forgets to put it in the other guy's list, forgets to tell the other guys about it, he's the only one that knows about this box. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, this is right about the time. Oh, and you guys feel free, if your mics are good, feel free to just openly ask questions. We haven't muted you, so if you have questions, just openly ask them. But we'll have you type it in the chat if you start cutting out and we can't hear you.
Right.
But so this is the time when I usually get asked. But what about CMS and PBM?
Sean, what about CMS and PBM?
Wow, what a coincidence! Because I usually get asked that right about this time.
Weird.
So the problem with CMS is twofold. It's extremely slow. It's extremely slow and very rigid, right? So it doesn't scale at all. It's based on XML, and anything in XML and SQL is just dog slow, right? And it doesn't scale because of that slowness. You can't logically do something against 1,000 servers in CMS because it just takes so long. And it's not flexible enough. Everything has to be in these groups. Tom would rather remain a silent fool rather remain silent than be thought a fool. Yeah,
and you
absolutely.
just outed him too.
Oh, well. I didn't say Tom who.
Oh, fair enough.
Yes, the Tom on the planet said that. And it's not flexible either, and you're going to see how flexible the system is, how many different ways that you can get at your data, and there's no way that CMS and PBM could even match this. So the heart of this is going to be your service levels, and this is one of the really cool aspects of it, because you put a server in here, you assign it a service level. We use gold, silver, and bronze. Some people prefer to think of it as tier 1 through 3, but we use the metals, right? So the cool thing is when I put a server in here and I give it the gold SLA, it automatically gets everything that gold servers get. You don't have to do anything to it. When I put another server in here for silver, it automatically gets all of the stuff that the silvers get. Period. End of discussion. You don't have to do anything other than assign the SLA. If I want to bump this server up from silver to gold, I just come in here and I make that gold instead of silver, and it automatically folds up into the gold, and it gets everything that the golds get. There's absolutely nothing left to do. Same thing with downgrading a server. If an application takes a backseat to another one, right? And now we want to make it silver or we want to make it bronze, you can take something from gold to bronze, boom, just by making it a bronze, and then nothing else is left to do. So it also simplifies your implementation too, right? When you bring on a new server, you ask them a series of questions, and then you and your manager or somebody sit down and decide, oh, okay, this sounds like it'll be a silver server, right? You assign it silver, and there's nothing else left to do. So we've made that as easy as possible. Now, you can query this and get just the gold servers, right? But I find that to be a little bit laborious, right? Because I find my hands are off in the server table. The more servers I have, the bigger my shop is, the busier I am. The more I find myself in here looking different servers up all the time, right?
Sure.
So writing that query or saving different versions of the query or whatnot is really kind of laborious. So we've given you guys a series of SPs, and we try to be as thoughtful with all of this stuff as we can. So what am I looking up? I'm looking up servers. How am I going to do it? By name, by SLA, by ID, by app, by environment, right? So let's look up by name. Okay, so this one's in Kentucky. I got the server name. I got all that other server info out to the right there. But you see here I've got role information, environment, application, contacts. I don't have anything filled in for the server, and you don't have to, but it makes it really nice if you do. You're going to see that in a minute where we've got some with that information filled in. But there aren't any other applications out there that allow you to fill in this kind of information, and I'm going to show it to you. You're going to see some examples of it here in just a second. Now, a lot of times I end up working in these shops where I get a dev that'll come by and say something like, hey, dude, can you do something on my prod box for me because I don't have access? And I'll say, sure, what's the name of it? And he'll go, I'm actually never on there, so I don't really know. But I think it has a B4 in it. Really, dude? So if you run by name with a (1), then it gives you a fuzzy lookup of what's in here, and so you could see you could search for anything that has B4 in it, and you could say, okay, here's a list of all the servers with B4. Which one is yours, right? Or you could even do it by app, and I'll show you that in a minute. So you can also look them up by SLA. And you see here I've got server roles, I've got environment, I've got app name, and I've got all the contacts in here as well for every one of these servers. So I can see the location too. I can see where they are in the country, in the world, right? So one thing that you'll notice here is the instance ID 2 shows up 4 times. Well, that's because, actually I'm going to go to by ID to explain this to you. That's because you can see that it belongs to the ADP application, but it's also prod and QA for ETL and reporting.
Good times.
So this box has 2 roles in 2 different environments for the same application. So that's why there are that's why there are 4 entries in here, because it's showing you every role. And if this were a generic SQL box and it belonged to, and it were the dev box for say 13 applications, right? Then it would be the dev environment of the database for ADP, and it would show up 13 times to show you how many applications that it's the dev box for. So, and if you don't like that, then talk to Emma Sands about that and have her separate some of these boxes off, have her separate these roles off of there, right? Okay, let's move on to the next one, number 1. And this is just another example. You can see here that Pulse 360 has SQLCon, and it's in Dallas. I was going to say they're both in Dallas, but it's the same box. But it's the database server for both prod and dev. Okay.
That server is both prod and dev. Could we be lucky enough that a single database is both prod and dev?
I know, right? And again, you probably need to talk to Mike Steves about that and find out if they can get dev off of there and say, dude, this is not cool. I know, right? Somebody's going to do something bad and it's going to suck, right? So, okay. Now, this last one here, it's only got, it's a single database prod box for Appleseed Security, and it's in Dallas, but it's also a cluster because I put the cluster nodes down here. So anytime you request information like this from one of these SPs from a cluster, I give you the SQL name and I give you the cluster instances as well. And you know what? Every single one of our alerts does that too. Well, not the nodes, but every single one of our alerts gives you the SQL name, not the damn node name.
Right.
I can't stand it when every single enterprise application in the world is so cluster stupid that when you get an alert from something, it tells you the node. The disk is full on this node on XYZ N1. There was blocking on XYZ N3. What the hell box is that? I've got 2,000 boxes. I don't have any idea what that is, right? So we will always give it to you by the SQL name instead of the node names. Now, if you get forwarded an email from somebody else, like from SCOM, and says, hey, dude, we got this event. It looks like a SQL event. Why don't you take a look at it? And, of course, it'll have the node name in here, right? So if that ever happens, you can just put that node name right up in here and search by name, and we'll give you both nodes, and then we'll give you the SQL cluster itself. So you can even look up nodes as individual nodes as well. And, of course, you can look up servers by application. So all of these guys belong to the single application, to InfoG. I've got 2 dev boxes and 2 prod boxes, 1 app server and 1 database for each. And they're all in LA or in Kentucky. I don't know why that one's null now. I thought it was, test data, what are you going to do? Actually, I know the problem because I'm on the wrong server. That's why.
Oh, good time.
Yeah, well, that's all right. It's been treating us well so far. But let me get on the right one because it has all the data. Let me run that one again. There we go. See, Kentucky. There we go. So anyway, you can see that you can store the entire application stack here. And as a matter of fact, I really like to, right? I like to know if there's a caching tier somewhere. I like to know if there's an MSMQ server. I like to know if there's a reporting box or if there are 3 ETL boxes, or if there's a server, if there's an SAS box or something like that that belongs to this application, if there's some sort of middleware box that has like a COM server or something like that. And you can put anything in here you want, right? You define the servers, you define the roles, you define the environments, you define the applications. So you can put anything in here that means something to you. But the point is that you can tie these things together, and then you can search based off of that, and you can run operations based off of that. And that's, again, something that A, CMS could never give you, and B, a GUI could never give you. And you can add these to your processes. You can you could search by app for a single application, and then you could run a specialized set of alerts or a specialized set of queries against these. We had the example in the last webinar where somebody was running where one of their offices, like the London office, was having an audit,
right.
And you can run stuff just against that office and make sure that you're hitting only the servers in that office or only for that one application in that office, and make sure that they're solid for their audit, and then move on to something else. And again, that's something that you could not do with CMS. It's just not flexible enough. You couldn't do it. Or you can search by environment. And so I can pull up all my dev servers or all my prod servers if I wanted to, right? Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about disk space. So this is just one example of something that we do. Let's say that you get a disk space alert. Say it.
You get a disk space alert.
That's better.
Thank you.
You get a disk space alert for drive F on whatever instance ID 1 is, right? And you go and you investigate, and you notice, and you decide that it's not a big log, it's not a blown out log, it's not a runaway backup file or anything. It's on a space. You actually need to request space from the disk team to have it expanded, right?
Sure, it happens.
So the first thing that's going to happen is you're gonna say, hey dudes, I need 300 gigs, and they're gonna laugh, no, right? And then you're gonna say, yes, that's what I need, and they're gonna say, prove it, and then you're gonna go, prove it. Well, I think that's what I need because it looks like a big database, and I think that that's how much we need.
And it seems like I remember that 8 months ago or so, it was about 30 gigs left. No, 50. No. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So what we do, since we store all this stuff in the database, right, then you can very easily do that. So let's go ahead and run this query. This is how I do my disk request.
While he's doing this, I'd like to emphasize that this is an automated collection that goes up and gets your disk information for you across the enterprise.
From day one without you having to tell it.
Can't say that enough.
I'm going to do this. Now, I used to do this in SRS, but honestly, it really is a lot quicker here because SRS, the performance is hit or miss, right?
Yeah, it's a personal preference thing. If I had to do this on any kind of regular basis, I'd put it in SRS.
Sure.
It's like you say, it may be slow, but it's not my time.
Well, sometimes it is.
Yeah.
So there you go. Now I'm going to change that. I like line charts for this better. There we go. Okay, so now I've got something that I can literally just copy and paste into the email and say, from this time to this time, it went up 150 gigs in the last 6 months. And since I'm asking for a year in advance, that's 300 gigs. So you can justify the space that you're asking from your disk team, right? Okay. Now that that's over, there's something else that needs to be considered, right?
What is it?
The alert in any system has no idea that you just requested space from the disk team. All the alert knows is that the disk is still over the threshold. So the problem is, and usually when I ask DBAs this, I say, okay, now how do you do that? And they go, oh, well, you have to go turn off the alert. And I say, and then in 2.5 weeks when they give you your space, you have to remember to go turn it back on.
Uh-huh.
And there's no real follow-up there, right? So every single one of our alerts has the concept of a deferment. And that deferment code is put right into the alert email. So all you got to do is copy and paste it. You don't have to remember it, right? So for this one, we default it to a week. So by deferring, we're saying, don't report on this drive again until this date and this time. So you can defer it for an hour, you can defer it for 2 days, you could defer it for a week, you could defer it for a month, and it just won't show up again in the alert, no matter what the space is, until that time has passed.
Thus preventing alerts that don't pertain anymore or don't pertain for the next week.
Exactly. So we're teaching you to have meaningful alerts. We don't want you to ignore alerts coming from Minion. Every single alert should be handled in some way, even if it's deferred, right? I just don't have time to look at this today. It's not that important. Defer it till tomorrow. Done, right? And it takes 5 seconds because, again, all you got to do is copy and paste it into SQL and hit go, and it'll defer them, right? So you know, you defer it for a week. The guy still hasn't gotten the drive space to you yet. Your alert shows up again, right? That reminds you. Now you can go ping him again, say, hey, dude, it's been a week. Don't forget about my space, and then defer it again for another week, right? And keep doing that. And then one of these days, it'll just, he'll get the space. You won't get the alert anymore, and you can forget about it because the alert still works. You don't have to remember to go turn it back on because you've told it when to turn back on. So not only that, but changing the thresholds and exceptions is extremely easy. Again, this is the entire enterprise and the entire enterprise portion and the scripting things portion and the we couldn't do this in a GUI portion, right? So if you've got setting up an exception, let's say that you've got a bunch of 2003 servers lying around and their C drives are just on fumes. They're running at 10 megs, right? And I've seen this many times. There's nothing you can do about it, so why even get the alert, right? So you could easily go through here and write a query that grabs all of the 2003 boxes and enters in exceptions for all of their C drives. So now, boom, you don't have to do that, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. And if you know what, if there were 75 of them, boom, it's that easy. It takes you probably about 5 minutes to write that query.
It takes you to write a query, yeah.
Yeah, and next time, and if you save it, next time it'll be even quicker, right? Or if you just want to change the threshold from like 15% to 10 megs or to 5 megs, right? Or to 2 gigs or to 10 gigs for this one application or for this entire environment. Let's say that you want to turn off disk space alerts for all of your dev boxes. That's easy. You can just look up servers by environment, pull up all the dev boxes, and enter in exceptions for every one of those in code. Boom, done, easy, right?
I'm saying boom.
Boom.
No more
Boom.
booming.
No more booming.
Oh, you know what? It's because of the 4th of July that was all the boom.
Yes, that's it.
That's what it is.
That's what it is.
It's subliminal, what it is.
So you can see how flexible this is, how powerful this is. I can enter in exceptions, which means don't alert, right? For entire servers or for individual drives. I could do it for all of the Z drives across 5,000 servers. Put in an exception for every Z drive. I want to see anything on any Z drive. It's just incredibly flexible. There's no end to the things that you can do here. Okay, so moving on. We're going to switch directions grossly here. Now, this is one of the coolest demos we have because this shows you the real power of what we're trying to do, right? Looking at logins. So we've got our current logins collection. Let's go ahead and see how many sysadmins we have. Now, this is how many sysadmins we have in our entire environment. Notice the server names are changing. This is how many sysadmins we have, 142 down here. We've got 142 sysadmins across all of our boxes. Now, I'm going to stress this one more time. You're not having to cycle around all the boxes to satisfy your audits. Your auditors are going to ask you a question. You're going to come run this query, or you're going to point them to an SRS report, right? And then you're just going to say, here, leave me alone. This is the entire shop, right? So again, we're concerned with all of your servers at once, not all of your servers, one server at a time. So we're actually, I want to say we're actually saving you time. We're actually saving you days sometimes, weeks sometimes. And I'm not exaggerating either. You'll see what I mean here in a minute. Let's concentrate on one server because we want to see this one server. We want to see the admins that are coming from Windows groups on this one server. So let me make sure and I've pared down the result set. So if you want to look at Windows groups on this one MinionCon box, I've got these two here that are services, right? Right. DBA, I'm pretty sure that's my DBA team, sure. Right? And budget SQL. Well, as far as an audit goes, That's not too bad. I got 4 people in SA.
Well, you've got 4 groups in SA.
4 groups in SA, right?
Yeah.
But as far as an audit goes, that's not too bad. If you were to turn that in, though, the next thing they would say is, okay, who's in Budget SQL, right? So this is our AD expansion module. We are going to expand your AD groups for you. So let's go ahead and take a look at the data that we collect out of AD itself for Budget SQL. Well, I can see all of the users here. Let me expand that a little bit. And you see I've got a lot of users in here. So I've gone from 1 to 55. I've got 55 users here. And look at all of the data we gather on in AD itself, right? We give you the last password set. We give you whether it expires, the bad login count. See, this one's got a bad login count of 21. We give you the description. We give you their email and their phone number and the display name and their name broken up and the GUID and the SID. So we give you everything in AD that is allowed. Everything that AD had to offer, we got. Okay, this is where we get log everything, report on anything, because I can't tell you what's going to be important to you, right? All I can do is grab everything, and I can't stand it when applications take something and when they give us properties for certain values like a service, right? And they choose what I want to see, and this one property that I'm interested in doesn't show up in their collection. When it was just as easy to, dude, it's like 15 more keystrokes. Just do it, you know? I mean, who are you to decide what I want to see?
Right.
So log everything, report on anything. And here's the problem here. These guys right here are also groups. So these are groups inside of this group. And I don't have any idea who's inside of there.
Mm-hmm.
There could be 3,000 subgroups inside each one of these, 2,000 subgroups inside each one of those, 10,000 subgroups inside of each one of those,
and you just broke the system.
Yeah, and users and users and users and users, right? So trying to get a real list of everybody that's actually in SQL through groups and all of the subgroups is not an easy chore,
no,
as we've discovered,
yes,
right? However, this is where we come in. This is where the AD expansion comes in. So I've got this SP here that does the AD expansion, and we're going to look up this server by name, report AD accounts in SQL by server name, and I'm going to pass it in the Minion Con server. Now, I'm putting this into a temp table because this SP returns everybody, right? And all I'm interested in now is the sysadmins. So I've got to put it in the temp table so I can then limit it by the sysadmins, right? So let's go ahead and run this. I think it takes sub-second. There we go. So now if you look, you can see that I've got the users in those individual groups as well. So now I've got everybody in there. I've got 173. Remember before, without the group expansion, I had 55. Now I've got 173 actual users in SA coming in from that one Windows group, right? So I don't know about you guys on the phone, but that's pretty phenomenal power coming in as an investigation for an audit or just to clean up my environment, right? To know who the hell is in my system. Because that's the thing I've always hated about using Windows groups. I've always despised it, and I've advised people against using Windows groups for years because I have no idea who's there. I don't know who's coming and going, right?
Yeah. So typically it's the Windows guys that have control over that, and there's not a whole lot of transparency. Even if there is a whole lot of transparency, they certainly wouldn't give you a list like this, or at least they've never given me a list like this. Right.
Well, and the Windows guys may not know it either because it could be some help desk guy that adds users in as they're hired, right? And if you get one group wrong, you could be giving like the entire organization. You could be giving your phone bank SA rights on the database, and you didn't even realize it. As a matter of fact, we had a client 2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah.
We showed this to, and they were already using Minion, but we showed them this module, And I took the IT manager aside. He wanted me to show him this module, and he said, show me against our big database. What do they call it? ADP. We'll call it ADP, right?
Sure.
So show me against my big module, and I expanded it for him, and he had something like 17 people in SA, and when I expanded the Windows group, he had over 500. And when he woke up, he was in shock.
Sure.
I mean, his jaw hit the floor, and I could literally see his hand almost start to shake because he was so. But they found out that they had a group that had accidentally been put inside like a third level group.
Sure.
Right? That they didn't mean to put in there, and that's where all those users were coming from. They took that out, and it took them back down to something like 40 something.
Sure.
It was an incredible security audit on that one server. Yeah, and that's the thing is, so a guy here says that he wants to be ready for an audit at a moment's notice. We call it living in audit mode.
Right.
And this is living in audit mode because it's constantly doing these collections. You're never not ready for an audit. And with SRS reports, you just wrap a report around this, and you can send the auditor to the report and tell him to leave you alone, right? Have a good day. Now, that's cool. That's actually really cool, right?
That's super cool.
So we did that for the Minion Con server. Let's do it across all SQL boxes in our entire shop. Because remember, that's what we're concerned with. Now, while we're running this, it'll take about 5 seconds. There you go. It took 4 seconds this time. I want somebody to tell me in chat, how long do you think it would take you to pull together this information in your environment on every single one of your SQL boxes and expand all of these guys? So you see here, I've got 423 users in SA, still only coming in from Windows groups, right, across my entire organization. So this is every single server I have, and I've got an instant security audit against every single server I have. Oh my God, that's amazing, right? Now you could further whittle this down. We've got the AD, right? You could make sure that they're all active. So there's the is enabled. So some of these accounts aren't enabled, right? So you could get that down by setting, AD account enabled equals 1, and you could make sure that you have only the enabled accounts. So again, we let you do anything you want to do, right? Log everything, report on anything. But yeah, I really want to hear, he says slightly longer than this, wink. Yeah, it would be almost impossible because I've tried doing this in several companies I've been in, and I always hit that brick wall with the number of nesting or the number of groups that are there. I've been in some really big environments where we literally had something like 30,000 AD groups. And you would have like this one group coming into your big SQL box. I'm not going to name any names, but it was a big company, right? And we had this one group coming into a SQL box, and I went to go do something like this manually, and there was something like 3,000 or 4,000 subgroups inside of there, and you just stop instantly and go, okay, I'm done, right? So it's really hard to do this kind of thing, and this is provided at the drop of a hat right now. You are living in audit mode. Okay, now if you want to do that kind of security, if you don't even know where to start, then you can take the same. I'm still working with the same temp table I created up here. I can just count. So with the AD users that are in SA, which
expanded out.
This is expanded out, right? This is that same expanded list that we just gave. Which two of these servers do you think that we should start our security audit on? I wonder. So there's clearly something really wrong on these two servers.
Maybe they're just the most popular.
So let's round it to 175. I've got 175 people in SA on these two boxes. Gee, I wonder why things are always going awry on this box. I can't imagine why. We're totally locked down. Look, we've only got this one group in here, right? Yeah. Okay, so now I usually do that count and everything, but I'm going to skip that one. This is just munging the data different ways. But now, where is it? I'm going to add in the SQL accounts, and I'm just going to insert the SQL accounts that have SA into this temp table that we're already working with. So now I have both of them. Now I'm going to select that, and now I have all of the accounts that have SA on my box, on all of my boxes in my entire LAN. I have all of the accounts in SQL and Windows accounts, right? Now this one still doesn't take into account all of the AD accounts that are coming in directly. I could add that in here by saying where login type equals SQL login, or where it equals Windows user, or whatever it's called in that column, right? So so there you go. That's the AD expansion module, but
what?
That still isn't everything. That's our top-down view, and I think you guys are really going to like this because this is cool. You're in a I'll call you a red guy. You're in a financial institution, and you want to talk about audits. I'm going to set up a situation for you here. Let's say that we have a user, eGant, who can do stuff on a couple servers that he shouldn't be able to. This guy keeps creating SPs.
Keeps changing SP configure values.
Right. He keeps changing SPs. We can't figure out how he's changing SPs because we took his rights away. He shouldn't be able to change SPs, right? Or query this table or whatever it is that he's doing. So we need to know how the hell he's getting this access. So a second ago, we were looking at the server's top down. We were looking at the server to see how many users there are.
Sure, that first thing was answering the question, who's got access to the server and via what groups do they have access?
Exactly. Now we're going to go from the bottom up. We're going to say, how many servers does this user have access to, and how is he getting in there? So this is an incredible report. I love this thing. Let's take a look and see eGant. So across the entire enterprise, I keep saying that again, right? But it's just so lovely.
Especially in this context.
Yeah. These are all of the servers that eGant has access to and how he's getting in. Let's concentrate on this first server. You can see here that eGant comes in through Budget SQL, like so many others.
Right, so that's the top level Windows login. That's the thing that actually has access.
Right,
yeah.
Right. And here's the path that he takes to get in there. He's directly into Budget SQL. So his account has direct access to Budget SQL.
Right.
Chances are when they tried to get him out of there, that's what happened. They took him out of that top level group and said, but I took him out of the group, right? But look, he's also coming in. That's supposed to do that. He's also coming in to Budget SQL through corporate, through HR, through sales and marketing, through finance, and through IT. So he's got 5 other subgroups that he belongs to that still have access to that box.
And that guy's in everywhere.
Right? So if you want to kill him from that box, you have to kill him from Budget SQL, but you also have to kill him from all of these as well, or just put up with it, right? Imagine how powerful that is. And I want to hear from you guys in the chat. How powerful is this kind of thing to you? Because, my God, we think this is just tremendous, right?
Absolutely. And since you're talking about this one user and you've got the entire list of their inheritance to all the servers, you can see what other effects it'll have to take him out of all those groups. You take him out of Budget SQL, out of corporate, out of HR, and you can see that's also going to remove him access from Minion Con, from client SQL healthcare, and so forth.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless he's got a direct login.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Have to investigate.
Right. So yeah, that's a good point. If you were to remove him from all of these guys here, you would also remove him from all of those guys on all the other servers as well. So you can see, what impact it's going to have to removing from these groups. This is information that is just invaluable. Oh, somebody just turned on their thing or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so, and again, you guys feel free to talk to us if you want. Now let's look at this last one because I like this one. Jen wrote this report. There we go, and she put the levels up there, so you can see that this guy's 4 levels deep. He's coming into this server through the Absolution users group. And here you can see the chain. But he's getting to Absolution users from TGF, from CSR, from USB drive, from the lead group, and then finally from him. So there are 4 levels between him and the final solution. So, or the final group that actually has access into SQL. So if you want to get him out of SQL here, you either take him directly out, or you can take him out of any of these groups and break that chain, and you should be golden, right? So most excellent. We absolutely love this. We got an applause. All right, so that is AD expansion in its fullest. That we've got another module that we're working on now that we're not going to talk about yet.
You just talked about it just now.
I know, right? But I want to tease you and say we're going to make this functionality even cooler. Oh, and by the way, you can also see the impact of groups. So this is an individual user, but you can also see the impact of groups too. So I can say, what servers does this group have access to? And I get the full chain on that as well. So even if it doesn't have to be an individual user, it can be a whole group of users, and you can see the access across the board. So that's pretty cool too. All right, now, index research. This is our index research module.
Now we gathered all this index information, just like everything else, the collection that gathers it across the enterprise. We're going to keep saying that. It's in the name.
Right. So there's a question here.
Oh, okay.
Is there a revocation module which lets you specify a user at the top level and will remove their rights throughout the chain? No. We will not remove the rights. For one thing, we probably wouldn't have the access in AD to be able to do that. But two, yeah, I'm not really looking to manage AD permissions. I'm looking to give you the tools you need to go to your AD guys and say, we need to do this, we need to do that.
To put it more strictly, it's outside the scope of this. We want to give you the information, absolutely.
Right.
But index?
Yes, indexes.
Yeah. So we gather the index information, the collections, gather the index information for you. And we've put together several reports based on some of the things that are important to us. Now, obviously, like we said before, the data's there. It's sitting in tables. You can munge it. You can query on it any which way you want to. This is just a starting place. So we start with clustered GUIDs and a few other things. So this report will give you, if we're doing clustered GUIDs by all, it'll give you all of your clustered unique identifiers across the entire organization, and you can filter that out any which way you choose.
Right, and we even give you the index names. So we give you the index names and the index columns,
the table
and all
name,
that.
schema name, all the important information.
But you can look this up by app, by ID, by server name, by SLA. So you could say, I want to do all my bronze boxes, and you can even write a custom thing, right?
Sure.
That says I want to do all of the prod boxes for this one application, or I want to look at the clustered GUIDs for all the prod boxes in London or
Anything
Kentucky,
that you like, yeah.
Anything that you like. You see how incredibly flexible this is, how there's no way you could possibly write a GUI for this, right?
Yeah, it's just, it can't be done. We wouldn't want to. So as far as duplicate indexes go, we've got, this is a starter, and it gets exact duplicates within a database. So, exact, not counting the name, of course. But
right.
Same number of columns, same order, both in the regular list and the include list. And along with all of that, you see you got the table name, index name, exact duplicate. That's the name of the duplicate index. And then it'll show you, oh, look at that. Here are the index columns. Here are the duplicate columns, just to prove to you that that's what it is, and the includes. And then gives you the option. We go ahead and give you the code to drop the duplicate index. Now, as always, as with any application, do not take what this thing spits out as gospel, right? You go in and you verify that, yes, this is a duplicate, and yes, I really do want to drop it. Don't just copy down all those drop indexes and run them. Oh, my gosh.
But we don't want you to write SQL if you don't have to.
Absolutely.
We advise against this. But you can do this and hit Control-C and then Control-V after you do your index investigation.
And as we move on, I'll tell you another use for those statements. We'll
right.
do that in a second.
But I ask again, how long would it take you guys to put this kind of thing together, this index research together in your current shop for your entire shop? Look at how cool this is that I can not only say, hey, I've made sure I don't have duplicate indexes, but I've made sure that I know about my clustered GUIDs and my duplicate indexes and whatnot across all 1,000 of my servers and all my 25,000 databases.
This is a great way to do some proactive tuning. You know,
Yeah.
I've been talking to a junior DBA friend of mine and kind of teaching her some about index tuning, and she says, well, how do you go about that? I said, well, you know, I'm not going to outline the whole thing, but effectively, if they don't want you to work on something specific, then here are some of the generics that you can work on. And this system makes that sort of generic, oh, I'm going to see what the red flag issues are,
Right.
makes it so much simpler instead of going to each individual database and each individual system.
Right. I like to call it line of thought processing, right? You're able to follow your line of thought without being impaired by not being able to get the data.
Right.
Because that's one thing that really hinders a lot of database efforts. A lot of DBAs wanting to clean up their environment is, I've got 1,500 servers. It would be nice to do this, but I don't even know where to start. I would have to gather this data across 45,000 something databases. How the hell do I even start? That's ridiculous. And so nothing ends up getting done, or something ends up getting done on just a small handful of tables, right? Well, here you can at least see the scope of your problem, and you can be rest assured that when this list goes away, you've taken care of all the dupes in your entire shop. And you know what? You can write yourself a custom alert, and you can say, alert me when somebody puts in a table with a cluster GUID, or alert me when somebody puts in a duplicate index,
Absolutely.
or something like that, right? You can get up alerts on this thing. You can get all up alerted in this thing. So,
Calm down. Easy.
So, yeah, it's really cool. Now, for those of you that are on Minion Reindex or have seen Minion Reindex, you'll recognize this data here because it comes from Minion Reindex. Now, remember we were talking about before how it's better in ME, right? We're not shortcutting this. This is just something we get in ME. Is we show you you can query all of your reindexing stuff at your entire organization level. Now, you can see the effectiveness of your reindexing strategy, and here it's not very effective, right? It's the same before and after, but I've only got 460 rows, right?
Yeah.
So maybe this would be something that you would say, let's up this, let's up the threshold from like 20% up to like 95%, so that we're not wasting cycles every day reindexing tables that aren't going to do any good anyway, right? And you can do that based off of any number of queries you want. And the cool thing about having Minion Reindex and Minion Backup, right, inside of Minion Enterprise is that you make the changes centrally. You don't go around to all the boxes and change these thresholds, right?
Yep.
You write a query that changes the thresholds, and ME pushes those changes out to all of the servers for you.
To put it more explicitly, say, for example, where post frag level minus frag level less than 10 and table row count less than 1,000, update threshold to 95%.
Yeah.
One query, and it pushes it all. Okay, I'm going to calm down.
Yeah, across your entire enterprise, right? And let's say that you've got an entire group of servers that you get a new backup NAS, right? And you want to and you need to move 35% or 100% of all of your backups to start using that new NAS, right? Well, you just change that in ME, and then it pushes those changes out to all your servers. If you want to, and I've already got these elaborate things, right?
We got a question?
Oh, yeah. Of course you could.
Could you push those custom thresholds out across servers by service level, et cetera? Absolutely. Pretty much anything that you can query on. All of these thresholds are stored in tables. So in order to, and all of the information about the servers is stored in tables. So it's very easy to select your, put together your select statement and your where clause and all that, and then change it into an update statement for the thresholds for those particular servers and tables.
Now they all have the instance ID column in there. So all you have to do is join that with the servers table where service level equals gold. Boom.
This is what we're talking about when we're talking about enterprise management. Sit in the center and just have your system change everything for you.
Right. And so this is kind of what I was saying before. I've already started coming up with these scenarios where we've got the dynamic tuning and Minion Backup, right? So with this dynamic tuning, you could even push changes to tuning out there and say, I want all of the boxes to have to use, you know, at the very least, this number of files and this number of buffers and all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, you can change, you know, the certificates that your TDE backups are using. You can choose to copy files. You can change backup times across your entire organization. The sky's the limit. I mean, and it's very easy. And the reporting is so incredibly easy because reporting on the backup, because, you know, sometimes you may want a backup. You may want one database to report if it hasn't had a full backup in, say, 24 hours. And another database on that same server you may not want to report on, but like every 48 hours or every 36 hours or every 6 hours, right? So customizing that level of alerts that every single database on every single server can have its own reporting thresholds is extremely easy. You can have a default enterprise level threshold, and then you just define the exceptions that you want. So you can have an exception for, say, server 1 log backups, and you can have another exception for server 2 database 1 full backups, and so on and so on and so on, right? And it'll just automatically honor it. So you can really tune even how they get reported on, and you can put exceptions. You can say, don't report on anything in the dev environment.
Sure.
Boom, just like that, and it's done.
Stop saying boom.
It was 4th of July. I was given.
No.
Okay, so we're running out of time, so we're just gonna say you can get all the heaps.
Absolutely.
Right. Low use indexes. I'll show them this one.
Yeah, I do want to take a look at that real quick.
Go ahead.
Because low use indexes is this particular index. This particular stored procedure takes a couple different parameters so that you can fine tune. You know, what I think of as low use index isn't the same as what you might. So let's scroll over to the right and see those numbers. What we do here is to gather the total number of reads and the total number of writes, and then compare them. The use reads per write ratio will tell you that, well, you know, this one has 0 reads, and so you might want to consider that as a candidate for dropping the index. Let's scroll all the way right. Do we have the drop? We don't have the drop and create in that one.
That's right there.
Right, no, I said drop and create.
Oh, I don't know.
Then I want to add it back to that, because one of the things that I'll do for some of these is if I'm going to drop a set of indexes, because I've looked at them and determined that they should be dropped, is I'll have the drop statements, and I'll also copy the create statements and save them as a sort of rollback.
Right.
And that'll be that's easy enough to add back in. So several of these stored procedures do have that, but I don't know this one is.
So we've also got missing indexes.
Oh yes.
And again, these are all across your entire enterprise, right? This one's likely to be pretty big in most shops.
Right.
But we give you all the normal missing index stuff, the create index statement, so you don't have to write it. And this is, of course, across any level of servers you want to put it on, right? Sure. You can do it across everybody and put it in a temp table and then limit it down, you know, and query that any way you want to. Okay, so let's go back to the slide for just a second, because I have stuff that I don't have time to demo, and we can't even talk about everything in this thing in the time allotted. But I want to show you I want to talk about just a couple more things real quick, and then show you just a couple SRS reports that we got, because they're really cool. Are they not cool?
They're very cool.
So I'm going to show you a couple more things we can do with the data. So real quick, log search. You can search across all of the error logs and the agent logs across your entire application, and you can define as many searches as you want, and it'll pull all that stuff into ME, and then you can report off of it. The SID server allows you to consolidate all of your SIDs so that the orphan user problem just goes away. Object scripting from day one, again, without even being asked, Minion goes out and scripts out all of the objects in all of your databases and puts them into dated files, so that if somebody needs to, if somebody accidentally deletes an SP or changes a function or changes a view, and they say, crap, I need yesterday's version or last week's version or whatever, you can go get it, and you don't have to restore a 4 terabyte database just to get a single thing, right? Or have to go get something like Lightspeed to do OLR. Weak passwords. Our no-touch brute force attack is absolutely beautiful.
We've got to put a demo up for that. That's just
I know, right? We gather all of the password hashes. So we do a brute force attack against the password hashes inside the Minion database, and we show you all of the weak passwords that you have. We ship with a password dictionary of over 110,000 different passwords. And you can add as many as you like because it's just stored in a table. So, anything you want, you can go ahead and add, even especially common ones for your company, right?
Sure.
And the cool thing about this is even though we're brute forcing every single one of these, we're doing it against our data, the data that's in here. So you're not going to get a call from the security team saying that you've had bad password attempts go up by 4 million today.
Yeah,
and oh my God, somebody's trying to break into the system. No, nobody's even going to know you're doing it because you're doing it against data you've collected, not against the servers themselves. We gather weight stats info from all of the servers. We have SP configure enforcement. So if anybody tries to change an SP config value, say max dop, right?
Sure.
You want it to be 2 on this server and somebody comes in and changes it back to 0, ME will change it back. I love that, right? File growth enforcement is the exact same thing. It just went away. It's okay. If you want the files to grow at, say, a gig and somebody comes in and changes the log back to 10%, ME will say, the DBA says 1 gig, and it'll flip it back. And then it'll tell you, hey, dude, I flipped this back, right? So, okay, let's do these couple reports. I don't know if I still them up. Hey, I do. So one of the coolest things here is our growth projection report, and ME does this out of the box. Again, you don't even have to tell it. It just works. So it's the simple question that you get from your boss, right? Hey, how big is this server going to be next year? I'm making out the budget, and I'm about to request the disk space, and I need to know about how much disk space I need to request, right?
Right.
Oh my God, nobody ever has an answer because nobody's doing this.
I said brown.
Yeah, right. So what we allow you to do here is pick your benchmark dates, right? I want to use between this date and this date as my typical growth period, right?
Sure, yeah.
And
I want to include like Christmas jump and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Or big archival things, right?
Yeah.
So, and I want to see 6 months out. So here you can see I just give it to you in different metrics, but this server will need 101 gigs in the next 6 months, or with a 20% cushion, it'll be 125. Now, I also give you an extended space as well. An extended means I double it. So if you ask for 6 months, I give you 6 months and a year. If you ask for 12 months, I give you 12 months and 24 months, right? Because I find that that's usually pretty useful. So for the entire year, you're going to need 204. Now, I could click on this and expand it to get the individual databases, but SRS on my box is really slow, and that usually takes about 40 seconds for that to come up. So I'm not going to do that. But you can get the individual database growth as well as the server, right? And the cool part about this thing that managers just flip over is the fact that I come down here and get a total number for the entire environment. Here's how much bigger our SQL databases are going to be in 6 months. Here is how much bigger they're going to be, if I can scroll this over, is how much bigger they're going to be in a year. They're going to be, let's round that up to 2 terabytes, right? So our databases are going to be 2 terabytes bigger in a year. That information is invaluable. And the longer you run this, the more accurate it gets, right? So it is absolutely fabulous information. And managers, I've never met a manager that I've shown this to that didn't just flip out over it. Because nobody gives you this information now, right? So there's one other one I want to show you, and that is our server inventory. Now, some people give you a server inventory. I think we've got a nice little twist on it, a DBA-centric twist, right? So not only can you see all of your boxes and their SLAs and the versions and whether or not they're clustered and the addition, right? But we also show you the OS info, the CPUs, the RAM, some really useful information in there that I've found, as it turns out, right, is really hard to come by in a lot of organizations. Now, the twist that we have here is with patching. So we give you the current patch that is on the box. So this box is clearly on SP1, right? But the latest patch is SP2CU5. So I can see that this one came out in 2012, this one came out in 2015, so I'm about 2.5, 3 years behind on patching. That's actually pretty important when it, this is actually pretty important when it comes to doing your patches, right? To not only know, oh, well, look, this one's on SP3 on a security update, but to know that SP4 is available, and it's actually been available for a year, right? So this is the manager's report. This is the thing that you would send them as a DBA. You would just run the view on the back end and query which ones need patching. You wouldn't query for everything, right? But we also give you URL to go download the patch yourself, right? So we help with, see, this is what I mean when I say that we're concerned with all the facets of your job. We're concerned with all of the things that you need to do, not just, oh, well, look at this alert and look at the backups and look at it. No, we're concerned with everything, and patching is a really big deal. So I don't care. It doesn't do me as much good to know that I've got servers on SP1. It does me a lot more good to know that they're on SP1 and here is the latest release and this is what I should be on, right? Now there's one more thing that I want to talk about, and then I'll let you go, and that is service accounts.
Okay.
This is something else that nobody else does for you, and I mean nobody. I've never seen this before.
Sure.
We not only collect all of the services on all of the boxes, right, but we give you the startup accounts as well, the service accounts. So let's say that you need to change a password for one of these accounts. How many boxes and how many services does that mean you're going to have to change, right? I've run this in very large shops before, and somebody has said, hey, let's change the SQL, let's change the account SQL_admin. Let's do that this weekend. And I go, and I run the query and see that it's run on something like 175 boxes and 40 different services. And I'm like, well, it would be more than 40 services, right? It'd be at least 175.
At least that.
But 300 something services. And dudes, we're not going to be able to change that many boxes in a single day, in a single weekend. This is going to have to be timed out, right? We're going to have to do this like during our quarterly downtime or something. So you can see that impact analysis of changing those passwords, and you can even use it to make sure that none of the services are running under somebody's account or something like that, right? So a lot of really cool stuff. And if you look at things, anyway, I got to stop.
You really got to stop.
Because I can't talk about everything in the product. There's so much more that we could talk about. It's a huge product. These are just some of our favorite things, right? So there you go. That's what we have. Are there any questions that are outstanding?
There was one question about the space projection, and Green says, have you considered a variant that lets you specify total length and interval? So 12 months, 3 months interval. I'm not sure I completely understand that.
Yeah, I'm not sure I completely understand that either.
You may have to rephrase that.
Because if you want a 3-month interval, then specify 3 months. I guess I don't understand.
Total length and 3-month interval. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we end the recording and then?
Yeah, we'll end the record. Yeah, we'll end the recording and we'll finish up with questions. We'll stay here as long as you want. I'm going to go ahead and stop now.